Hello, welcome to this video on image formation by a concave mirror. This is our second video on image formation by a concave mirror. In our first video we discussed what happens when the object is placed beyond C, so when the object is somewhere around here. In this video we'll be discussing what happens when the object is placed between C, the center of curvature, and F, the focal point. So we are interested in the object being, for example, here, positioned between C and F. And as before, our object is just going to be a very simple arrow pointing upwards. Let's label the top of the arrow, the tip of the arrow P, and the bottom of the arrow Q. Recall that to work out where the image corresponding to this arrow will form, we just need to consider two rays from one point on the arrow. And it's easiest to just consider rays from the top or the tip of the arrow. So recall that a ray from the top of the arrow, from point P, that travels parallel to the optical axis, or like so. Okay, so this ray here is traveling parallel to the optical axis. Recall that such a ray will reflect off the mirror and travel through the focal point F, like so. Recall also that a ray that travels through the focal point, like this, let me draw that again, will reflect off the mirror and travel parallel to the optical axis. Okay, so this ray, once it reflects, it will travel something like this. And just drawing two rays is enough, because now notice these two rays, they meet at this point here. And this point here is going to be the image of the top of the arrow. So the image of the arrow, the image of our object is formed at this point here. So we can draw in our arrow, and the tip of the arrow, the image of the tip or the top of the arrow, is formed at this point here. So let's call this point P prime or dash, and the bottom of the image of the arrow is this point here, and let's call that Q prime. So as before, there are a couple of things you need to know about an image and its properties. Notice that this image is upside down. So here our object, our arrow, is pointing up, but the image of our arrow is pointing down. So we can say that the image has the following properties. One property that it has is that it is inverted. Or that it is upside down. And recall, this was what we found when our object was placed beyond C as well. Okay, so we found that the image was inverted then as well. Notice that the size of the image, however, this time is bigger than the size of the object here. So this is a difference from before. So this time we say that the image has been magnified. Magnified. Which just means it's bigger than the size of the object. When we were looking at image formation when the object was beyond C, our image was smaller than the object, so it was diminished. And finally, just like before, the image formed is a real image, and that's because the reflected rays, they actually meet at this point here. Okay, so this image is a real image. Thank you for listening.